So I wanted to talk to you about one of the businesses that I had. I have been entrepreneurial since I was about 13 years old. And in the process of doing so, I've learned many, many things. And I think there's a lot of value in sharing some of those insights as to the kind of things that have happened for me during business. And I wanted just to go through my businesses one by one in a mini series that I'm going to do around just entrepreneurialism. I'll be really honest. There's loads of, I went for a journey on running a business. I had no background. There was no one really in my family. I think my mum was probably the most entrepreneurial person that I had met. And she would set up her own small business. She would have a stall on a market. She would hire out a shop and she would sell stuff. And she had a couple of attempts at doing that, actually, to moderate versions of a success. But being an entrepreneur in a bigger scale and running a business on a bigger scale, even if you read, and I did business courses and classes and all those things, it never really adds up to anything that you can use. And the reason why I say that is because when you're creating a business, you're kind of coming from the perspective of what the actual resources are around you. If you don't have much more real life information, you don't have mentors, you don't have any real money or capital, you don't really have access to the tools to generate a business. And again, thinking about me, I'm probably a little bit older than some of people watching this at home. And, in the 2000s, when the internet was just coming in, it was probably as complicated as we had a dial up. Having a web page was huge. No one really understood what to do with it or how to do it. I was probably 16 at the time. And it was very, very basic kind of selling stuff. It would be buy something, sell it for more, keep the profit. It was that kind of basic stuff. My first business was selling CDs. Now, I'll be honest, these were not legal CDs. These were CDs that were imported into the UK via a CD shop. And so he would have the new Ludacris album, for example. And then he would have an under the bag version, which was just a lot cheaper. So he had the formal CD version, which was probably $17.99 and super expensive. And then what he would do is duplicate that CD and sell them for £5 each. And obviously everybody wanted to buy them for £5 each. So he basically was very rarely selling the formal version of the CD. And then I would get into a habit of not only buying the new albums that were coming out, I'd buy the mixtapes also. And the mixtapes had songs that would come out before the album came out. So the single that was promoting the album would be featured on these mixtapes. And we're talking about DJ Vlad, we're talking about DJ Envy, DJ Clue, all of the big mixtape DJs of the time. And then I would take the best songs of them, recurate them, make a track listing, which was basically a white sheet with a colored frame and a name made up for it, R&B Mix 1, and just a track listing with the featured artists, of course. Then I would duplicate them, take them to university, sell them for £5. So I was buying one CD for £5, selling them again for two for £5. And obviously I was probably making about £300 a week, minus costs, about 220 quid a week. All the good things that I did with that business idea is I took a $17.99 product and I made it £2.50 effectively to £5 each, and took it to a demographic that wanted music, because everybody in uni had cars, everybody was living out from home, nobody really had access to this particular material. I made it actually even cheaper, which is probably not the best idea, but I just found the resistance of negotiating between £3 and £5 just a bit too much. People really didn't have it at the time, so going even cheaper meant that I just did volume. And I did so much volume that actually I was able to make it profitable. But also that was spread. So not only would I do that in my uni, I would do that anywhere I go. People around my area, other universities, I'll just have that bag in my car, and I basically would print them off in kind of like a drawstring gym bag. Go around and just see what I had. And then every day I'll go home and top up what I needed. And it did work really well. I think I did that for about 2 years. And that actually paid for me to, because I always had a job, but that really allowed me to afford to live outside of my family home and get my own place. I had a flat share with three other boys, actually. There was four of us in the end. And I always had money. I always had food. I always had stuff. And that was really how I was able to kind of make it make sense to leave home. So that business, was there anything else that was really good about it? I just think like breaking music and becoming that person kind of fueled my passion for music. At the time, the music industry was incredibly old school. They hadn't really moved on to digital. Napster was around, I believe. I think Napster was around. I don't know if it might have been on its way out or on its already out by the time I got to university. And you know, having fake CDs, they used to be waste markets. So anyone that knows Hackney Whip Market in London, that used to sell everything fake, including trainers and clothes and whatever, used to have those CDs. And yeah, we used to print them off and resell them. So that was the good part. The bad part is obviously it's illegal, so it's not sustainable. And it in real terms, it didn't make any real money. And, you know, it was something that kind of happened as a good idea, but it couldn't be scaled. It couldn't be sustainable. I couldn't be legitimate. I couldn't be long term. So therefore it just, you know, it became a side hustle, if anything. The other parts that probably didn't do it is I didn't actually brand the CDs. If I had branded them and built a music brand off the back of it, or a blog, or another way to kind of keep an audience, sustain an audience, really my career would have gone a completely different trajectory. But this is where I think it's really important that you have a vision of what you can be, or you have a knowing of what it takes to become something. We never had music people around us. There was very few black people in music, and there was like the handful that were super well known. I think it was Londell McMillan, someone that managed Gabrielle, someone that managed Misha Parrish. You know, I think there was a couple of people who were doing it, but not very many. And so there's another guy called maybe Des, I think, who used to manage Dynamite, maybe. I'm not even 100% sure. But I know there was a couple of faces we used to see really on. Glenn Akins, who did So Solid, was somebody I always remember. And there's a couple of other people, of course, but like they were literally superstars to us. We were just like, I cannot believe someone in music pays you. So genuinely, based on what I was doing, curating music, sourcing music, and then promoting music effectively, easily could have been a job at a record label. I definitely could have been a label head at this point. My passion for music still exists. I love unearthing music. Later on down the line, I managed some artists. I helped them with their strategies. I did some digital marketing stuff, you know, helped them with their album development, A&Ring. I've gone through little phases of like dabbling, but never really any deeper than that. So the mistake of like not building a brand and expanding that to be more editorial, more digital first, doing things like blogging, vlogging, probably meant that it didn't get maximized, and it kind of faded away as I finished university and I wasn't around those people anymore. So yeah, I think that business by far, the real lessons of like, you know, if you're going to do something, think about how it connects to other entities. So that if you're going to do music, how do you turn this into an empire and not just an idea that you're doing something? I think often when things catch fire and take hold, the desire is to like chase the noise of where it's coming from, and try to make it as much as possible. When I think in reality, it's about really grounding. You need first party data. You need to own a platform. You need to be able to sell product and present product to those types of people, present solutions, be useful in that regard, and build a relationship. I think most people don't understand that this is just a relationship. When I'm at home, I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to the internet as an abyss. I'm talking to you. You bothered to watch this video. You matter. We now have a relationship. Please subscribe, by the way. And I think that that's the kind of like key part that I just didn't have the insight for. And I think one of the things about being maybe neurodivergent, which is really interesting, is finding answers is never a problem. Whatever's going on in the world, whatever's happening, you know, whatever the problem is, I will find an answer and a view that I will try to bring to life as a way of solving it. Now, the thing about that is that it's not always designed methodically, strategically. Sometimes it's just a happening, and you find yourself in a situation. I'll tell you more about my other businesses later on, but it's just a happening, and because you don't strategize, you don't really plan for it to be successful in a way that it becomes huge. And then it's about what things get presented to you and how you maximize it. So always have a plan, but always have like a 20% space where you can grow into and expand based on what actually happens for you. Because for me, I didn't get that call to be like, oh, we see what you're doing, come and curate something for us. But I did actually work in music later on, and a lot of that grounding, understanding songs, understanding what hit songs sound like. Because you think about it, I got sent an album, a Ludacris album. I knew the official single that came out first. I didn't know the singles that were coming afterwards. So I had to listen to the whole album, pick the best songs, ones with the most interesting artists, which artists do people care about, and then I'd have to pull that song off and then curate it alongside other songs. And that's not always easy to do. Like, that's not, you have to know roughly what a hit single sounds like, or why that song would be special, or why that song would drive someone to buy it. So you do kind of curate an ear for it. And I haven't really lost it, to be honest. Like, I just, if I meet an artist and I listen to their music, I have a view of what pattern arrangement, musical arrangement there is, that the chances of it being workable for online or for viral moment or for radio or wherever. Anyway, that was my first business. It was probably 20 years ago. And obviously for many people who had never, ever sold CDs, they wouldn't have an absolute clue what on earth is to do with a CD and, buying a CD burner and a, printer for CDs. They wouldn't have a clue. But honestly, that was a genuine viable business. And at the time, £300 a week for a year and a half, 2 years, it's not bad money. It's good money. Anyway.